Okay, so today we are going to be doing some basic stick figure animation in Adobe Creative Cloud Animate CC. I'm using the Creative Cloud. You might have whatever version of Animate, they'll be on the screen now. Most of the stuff I'll be doing in this tutorial will translate across all of that, so you don't need to worry. In this panel here that you get when you first open up Animate, you get to create new or open recent. Just ignore that. That's countless advent animation, and you'll get that if you're watching this when the video comes out. If not, then go back a long time. Anyway, we're going to click ActionScript 3.0, which is just if you're not planning on doing any code or anything like that, just go with ActionScript 3.0. It's just the easiest, and it's just the one that I pick. Okay, so now we have the stage open. So we have our white background here, we have our timeline down here, and we have our toolbar, and then properties and a library. So what we're going to be doing to start with is setting up our stick figure. So we're going to rename this layer Stickman number 1, because we're going to be adding a second stickman later. And we're just going to grab him, and I need to get my tablet. I should have prepared for this. Okay, we're going to click this, or click B on your keyboard, which is the default shortcut. And I'm just going to grab the size, and I'm going to put it down to around 18, which looks quite good to me. Now all I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a basic stick figure body, and if you want a straight line, then click Shift, but it only works for horizontal and vertical lines. Okay, so get a nice stick figure shape. That's not very nice. Like so. Okay, so we've got the body, which is not very good, but oh well. And next up we're going to need his head. And actually I forgot an important part. When drawing your stick figure, you want to click this button, which basically means each line is separated, which makes it easier to work with. So you can see I haven't done that, so it's all as one thing. So I'm going to actually have to redo that with this turned on, and you can click J to turn it on and off. So you just want it selected so it looks dark. And now I can redraw my stick figure, and this time I don't need to worry about the pieces getting stuck together, which basically means when I'm going through frames I can edit single pieces of his body without having to redraw the whole thing, which will look a bit jittery. Okay, so now we have the body, which is terrible. So an example of this is the leg isn't very good, so I can delete it, and I can now redraw it without mucking up any of the other thing or having to Control Z the whole thing. So that looks a bit better. It's not great, but I'm happy with it. Now I'm going to get the oval tool, which is here, and you can click O to select this, and I don't want to do that. Okay, and we're just going to draw a circle, and a trick to this is hold down Shift so you get a perfect circle no matter what. So if we don't have that, we get an ellipse. So yeah, it's just want to make that to like a sort of stickman head size, and I'm just going to drag that to where his head would be, and this is actually quite big, but that's fine. I'm not worried about that. He can be big-headed stickman. Okay, so now some people like doing lines of reference, so using the line tool and then just drawing out lines for where the neck and thing are. I don't really like that approach. It just seems a bit pointless to me, and I just don't bother with it. So anyway, now we've got a stickman, we probably want to start animating him. So there are two different ways that you can animate: frame by frame and in-betweening. So I'm going to demonstrate both, because I'm doing two stick figures. So basically this guy is going to punch another stick figure in the face, who will be over here. So we're going to do the first one, and we're going to do it frame by frame to give you an idea of how that's done, and then we'll do the second guy with in-betweening. Okay, so next up what we want to do is there are three shortcuts that you can click for your next frame. So that's F5, F6 and F7. F5 basically duplicates the frame, so it makes an exact copy of the frame, where if you change something on that next frame, it changes the first frame as well. If click F6, it creates a duplicate, but it's separated so you can change it and it doesn't affect the first one. And F7 creates a new completely blank frame. So if I just show you down here, if I select this frame and click F5, you can see it's just made it a bit longer, and I can click F5 again and again and again and again, and it'll just be the same frame for the whole thing. So we'll get rid of those, like that. Now click F6 on it, and you can see it's created the exact same frame, but they're both separate. So, oh god, shouldn't have clicked on all of them. So, basically you can edit one without disturbing the other, and then F7, completely blank flame, and you can see it's empty. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to click F6, and we're going to then delete everything apart from the head, because we need to keep that the same size. But now we can't see our previous animation, and we could just go back and go off the eye, but there's an easier way to do it with a thing called onion skin. So if we click this, or Shift-Alt-O, then you see like the previous frame, and also later when we start in betweening, you can also see the next frame, but you don't need to worry about that when doing frame by frame. So the idea is he's going to jump, so we probably want to lower him like a bit, and I'm just going to give him a slanted body as he leans in towards the final pose. I'm going to arc his arms just a little bit, but not too much. Click that again. Delete all his body parts and move him in like so. Okay, so now we've already created a sort of animation. Not a very good one, but something that we can at least watch. And you can see now his arms have gone straight, so they've moved upwards even though they've gone down. So if we watch this, now you can't really see the frame in the middle, but it does add a lot. Now what we might want to do is click F5 on all of our frames to make them a bit longer, and now we have this. So it's a bit jittery, so if you want to clean it up, you can always add a classic tween, which basically, I'll explain tweening in another video, but it'll just make the whole thing a bit smoother by working out the in-between bits. Now you don't want to do this if you've got a really long pose, because it'll be jittering around everywhere. But if you've got small 2-frame bits, then you might want to do a bit of that, because you can see it's just moved him slightly so he prepares for the next position just a bit more. But it doesn't like change any of the lines, it just manipulates the shape. So now that we've got that, we're going to get him to actually jump, so F6. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the free transform, and I'm just going to jump him up like that. And that's all we really need to worry about. And you can see we've still got a tween on it. Okay, click F6, move him a bit more. F6, move him a bit more. And for some reason they're all tweening. Okay, so now I'm going to move him a bit more, and I'm going to edit the animation, and for some reason it's put him in a... oh, it's because we're tweening him. Oopsies. So let's remove these tweens, because I didn't add them, so I don't want them. Right, now for some reason it's created him into a shape object, which is worrying. Oh well, you can still edit him in here. So if we just delete all his body parts again, like... oh god. I am completely mucking this up because I'm doing a tutorial. Okay, so now that I've mucked the whole thing up, I'm gonna... oh god. Remove tweens. Oh no, Control Z. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna right click and click break apart. So that means it's now separated again. So if you ever get that problem, that's all you need to do. So now I can delete all his things separately, and he's still gonna have quite a straight back, but I'm going to bend it a little bit, move his leg up, bring his arm round a bit more, like that, and he's basically just going to punch down like super karate style thing. So he's starting to fall, and we're just going to get him to punch straight down, and you can see that his proportions are way off, but it looks fine. And so we'll draw another stick figure there, and then we'll get him to fly off. So you can see we've just we've punched someone in the face, and it looks a bit like this. Okay, so now we need to get him to fall. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this punch, make it last for a few seconds, because you always want punches to have a big impact, and then he can sort of move backwards like this. So we still want a bit of the pose, but we're just gonna, okay, he looks really small now. We're just gonna not make it as intense as the last one, and we're just gonna slowly revert him back to a normal standing position. And actually, we're gonna create a new layer, drag it underneath our stick man, and earlier I said I wasn't gonna do the lines, but I've realised I do need it because I need to know where the floor is. So I'm going to go it off this one, and I'm just going to do it like that, and then, oh god, check that everything corresponds to the floor now. Okay, it doesn't really, but it's fine. I'm not too worried about that. Okay, so let's get him to smack on the floor. Doesn't need to be that accurate. Bend his arms behind him, and then he can straighten his back quickly. If we just click F6 again, delete all these frames, move them up, and for some reason our onion skin, oh my god, everything's just going on. It's because I'm doing a tutorial, that's why. This you can just select like frame 40, click F5, and it'll make it that long. And now, oh, for God's sake, what am I doing? Delete that. Right. Bam, 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 bam. Done. Okay, so that's our first guy, and we have him doing this. Okay, so this will look more dramatic when there's somebody else there. But for now, that's quite good. And I'm actually going to tween all of these ones. Remembering to ignore this one, and then I will tween all of these ones. Not that the end one matters. Okay, so now we have this, which looks a lot smoother. Okay, so that was the frame by frame method. But now we're going to do the in-betweening. So if we make a new layer and call it stickman number 2, and we hope that there are not as many failures as the first time. So let's see, where does he punch? So this is our reference basically. So his head needs to be like there, I guess. If we just go onto our line layer, then we can actually make a marker. So that's not where his fist hits. That's where his fist hits. So having a line layer, despite me telling you it's awful, can actually be fairly helpful. Just check, so the head wants to be pretty much right there. So if we just draw the head, I know I did it the other way around last time, but it doesn't really matter. Put it there, so that's basically just making sure it's getting straight smack to the face. Apparently this guy's quite small, he is vertically challenged, because you can't say dwarf. Maybe he is a dwarf. Maybe he's a magic dwarf. Okay, so he's got very small legs. But here's this guy. So what you do is you do the main poses. But really there aren't any poses until we get to this part, where he falls backwards. So we're just going to leave this as it is. And so really I'm just going to go to this next frame, and I'm going to imagine that he's been punched in the face, and I'm going to sort of do that. And what we can do is we can drag out the frames later. So we'll get him to stagger backwards and hit the ground, basically. Okay, so I'm going to go extreme in-betweening because I don't like in-betweening, so I'm doing it extremely. Okay, so we have our 2 frames. Standing up, dead. Okay, so we're going to drag this to the point where he gets punched. So now, as soon as he gets punched, he's dead, which is a bit dull. So we're going to in-between it, so that we're going to actually drag this out to here, so he actually falls over when he reaches here. So being punched, and then he falls over. But we need to do the in-between of this. So I'm imagining the in-between would probably be around here. So we're going to go on this, and we're going to click F6. And we're going to do what would be the middle of the 2 frames. So actually I'm going to get rid of that and do it here. Okay, so this is actually the middle. Oh god, I deleted the head. Right, so in the middle is here. Okay, and then we work out the middle of that. So the middle of that would be here. And we go down a bit more. So now we're in the middle of those two positions. And then he smacks dead on the ground. Okay? And then we're going to go in between this bit here. So we're going to do the in between for this. And that should be our last in between. So we want to just have a slight bit like that. And that is basically in betweening. So we've worked out the first and the end frame, made the middle of that, then made the middle of that, and we have our animation. You can add even more. It doesn't matter how many you add depending on the speed of your animation. So now we have this. Some dude decides to punch a guy in the face, which is really kind of mean. Then what we're going to do is we're going to get this layer here. We don't need it anymore, so we're going to click the bin button. It's gone. And we're going to lengthen out this so they stay, and we'll just remove the tween. So now we have this. Blam! So you can easily tell where the floor is. It's there, and you've created a simple animation using frame by frame and in between, and you can decide which method is your favourite. I like frame by frame, and there are different applications for both of them. Say you're doing something like a jump, that's when you might want to do frame by frame, because you might animate it so your character misses the jump. But for something random, like an explosion or smoke, then you definitely want to do frame by frame, because there's no way you can predict the first frame and the end frame, and you just want to go with the flow. So that's all for this tutorial. If you enjoyed, make sure to give it a thumbs up for more animation tutorials, and I'm going to be working on an animation project soon, and I'm not going to tell you what it is because that would be spoilers. So yeah, until next time, bye.